Hi everyone, welcome to ATRM Meets, the movie interview show brought to you by All the Right Movies. My name's Luke. On the show we talk to people in entertainment about 5 films that they've personally picked out that are important to them, movies that they love. Today I'm talking to a musician who came to prominence in 2012 as the winner of TV music show The Voice of Ireland. Since then he's released 3 studio albums to great acclaim, including his most recent, Into the Light, which came out in summer 2021. It's a pleasure to welcome Pat Byrne. Hi Pat, great to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Hey Luke, thanks for having me. Delighted to be here and excited to talk about movies.
Great.
And make it feel like it's a job. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I often struggle to justify just watching films and say that I'm working.
Oh, I felt so, because I watch movies all the time and my girlfriend kind of hates it because she's a very outdoorsy person.
Yeah.
So it was nice yesterday to say, I'm sorry, I have to watch some movies. I'm doing a podcast tomorrow and this is real business right now. So.
That's the only excuse you need.
Thanks for giving me that excuse.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So where you're at, where are you talking from?
I'm in Austin, Texas. I moved here 4 years ago.
Right.
Straight from Ireland, and been living here ever since. I love it here, and I've been riding out the pandemic. And,
wow.
But it's been great. It's a good place to be.
Mm-hmm. So have you still been able to do stuff with your new album, like tour and with the COVID restrictions?
Yeah, I was actually the COVID restrictions helped me a lot. Selfishly, right. I had a great year. Well, first of all, everything got cancelled. I had a year of touring planned, and that all got pulled from under me. So I had nothing to do. I ended up writing the album, and then launched a Kickstarter campaign online. I was doing all my shows online. It was like Facebook live streams. Mm-hmm. That's the only place I could perform. And because of that, got to do this Kickstarter and raised 30 grand and made an album all during the pandemic.
Right.
And because the pandemic was in full swing, all these great musicians who normally would be on tour were available to record. And so I got the best band. Yeah, I got these really great musicians in Nashville to record and spent the year making the album. And then as soon as the album came out, the restrictions kind of lifted and I was able to tour. So it worked out really well
perfect.
for me. I'm in Texas, so like I know back in the UK and Ireland, it's a different ball game. It's been a nightmare for people, but it's been pretty wide open for most of the time over here.
Really?
You know, there was like maybe 6 or 7 months where nothing was happening, and then after that, things slowly opened back up, and you know, it's been pretty easy.
So we're gonna get into your favorite films. So, is it your top 5 films? Is it ones you have a personal connection with, or ones that you go to the most?
I don't know.
It's difficult.
Olivia, who arranged this. Thank you, Olivia, because I love this. Just texted me and she was like, "Pick 5 movies that you love," and that's such a stressful thing to answer. Because if you asked me today, it would probably be a different 5.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, well, here's 5 movies that I undeniably love, and I just sent them. But it could have been tens of others, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to pick all classic, like these are definite the best. Like if you check any top 10 list, they're going to be in there. I wanted to try and mix it up with some newer stuff that I've seen recently, and so I think I got a fairly varied list.
Yeah, I think it looks eclectic to me. Okay, so do you want to talk about your first film?
Well, the one I had seen most recently was Memories of a Murder. I know it's not the newest movie, but it was that Bong Joon-ho movie.
Yeah.
Was it his first? It was one of his early ones.
It was his second film.
Second. Yeah. And I was late to the party with him. My first movie I saw was Parasite. And, it blew me away. And after that, went back. I still haven't made it through all of his back catalogue, but just a few weeks ago, I saw Memories of a Murder, and I remember, like, after it was over, I was like, I think that might be the best movie I've ever seen. It was
wow,
one of those moments, and you don't normally get that. And I've only seen it once. I haven't rewatched it, but I was like, I need to put that in the list because it blew me away. I remember that last scene just kind of shook me to the core, and it was so clever, and just so many great themes in there.
Yeah,
and I just think he's a great filmmaker. You know, everything I've seen that he's done is kind of mind-blowing. So
yeah, fantastic. I mean, it put me in mind, I don't know if you've seen it, it put me in mind of Zodiac, David Fincher's Zodiac.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like that police procedural thing where there's an ambiguous ending and they're like chasing down leads, dead ends and stuff like that. But that came out before Zodiac, I believe. So I don't know if that was an
It
influence
did.
on Fincher.
I'm sure it was. The more I've researched the movie and Bong Joon-ho, he's kind of an influence on everyone. And I see, I like Tarantino, and he obviously he loves movies more than anyone. And it just when you listen to him talk about movies, Memories of a Murder kind of comes up in his top 10 frequently, and
Right.
it just seems to be a very cited movie. And Zodiac was one of my favorites too. I think Memories of Murder is superior. And there's something about, I love David Fincher, but there's something very precise that sometimes it's like a bit cold, and it's hard for me to I totally appreciate everything he's done though. And I'm a fan of his, and I like all of his movies, but I don't know, Memories of a Murder hit me harder, and there was something a bit more raw about it. And the kind of real life story was, do you know the real story about the serial killer?
I read up a little bit on it. The guy was caught a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
right?
After the movie came out. Yeah, I mean, so it was the same as Zodiac, where it's an ambiguous ending and no one knows who the killer is, and it's very unresolved. But in real life, they caught the killer, and several fabricated things that were put in the movie came out to be true.
Really?
Like so it just was a eerily great piece of storytelling, I thought, and the fact that he kind of predicted some of the real life events was very incredible. Was very cool. Yeah,
I really like the crossover of the two leads. The guy who's coming from Seoul, who's very much by the book, and he's very methodical, and you can't just beat a confession out of a suspect.
Yeah,
and then he crosses over, and the case gets the better of him.
I mean, yeah, and the other guy crosses over too. He's this childish, very instinctive, reactive, masculine guy who can't deal with things properly, and he thinks if he looks someone in the eye, he can tell if they're guilty or not. And then by the end of it, he becomes far more logical, and he's looking at that one suspect at the end, and he can't figure out if he's guilty or not, and he's man enough to admit it. And then the other guy, who all up until this point has been the methodical, review the evidence, calm guy, is trying to shoot him and kill him, even though he knows he's been faced with the evidence that he's not guilty. Yeah, I love the two of the dichotomy, the two different masculinity, different forms of masculinity, and all the while there's this female detective in the background who's like giving this great advice and is totally well spoken, and everything she says turns out to be the right course of action. And she's just kind of being laughed at and overlooked the whole way through it.
Because it's set in the 70s, so I guess that... it's set in the 80s, so I guess that... I don't know maybe the culture in Korea, but I would imagine that if that was an American film or an English film, then because it's a female character, particularly in a position that she was in, a police officer, then she's marginalised, she's not taken seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's the one who's coming with all the logical explanation and all of the information.
Yeah, she's the one who had that, she just found out about the DJ who's playing the song, and please only play it when it rains. And it's fantastic. And it's clear that the police force in Korea were quite corrupt back then. And it is true that they were, torturing suspects and trying to beat confessions out of people because they were just ill-equipped to deal with the situation. And that's very clear in the movie. It's like a hopeless situation where they're just... I love that scene where the childish one decides that the killer shaves his pubic area.
Yeah.
And so he suggests that we need to find people who have no pubes.
Yeah.
And he actually goes to bathhouses, and that's how desperate they were. He goes to bathhouses to try find people who are shaved, and
they
were just kind of really, they were just throwing the kitchen sink at it, and it's very desperate. Sorry, our dog is acting up.
That's all right. And they even suggest to go to the monastery over the road, don't they, to pull out suspects?
Yeah, it gets very desperate at times.
Great. So have you got a favourite scene in that film? Was there a one that stood out for you?
Yeah, like I said, I haven't watched it again, but I mean, the scene for me, like maybe my favourite scene ever in anything, is the end where he goes back to the that original scene from the first scene.
Yeah.
Where he discovers the first dead body and he's looking at the area and there's a little girl and she's like, oh, it's funny, there was a guy here looking at this area just last week. And he was like, really, what did he look like? And the girl just says, he's just a regular looking guy, just like you. And he looks around for a second and he stares down the lens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, he's looking at you. It's like, is it you? Are you the killer? He's like, because everyone in Korea, it's a famous case. They know he hasn't been found. And I just was like, if you're in a theater looking at that, and you're beside, like you're amongst 100 people, it must have been a very bone-chilling moment when this actor's staring, and it's like a 5-second stare into the lens, and you're thinking it could be someone in here.
Yeah, exactly. Could be somebody
at
right
the killer.
next. Yeah,
I just thought it was so clever and so powerful, and I almost started crying when it happened. It was really electrifying.
Yeah, incredible. It had me on the edge of my seat as well, because I didn't know that it was going to be ambiguous. I was expecting maybe a resolution, and then, but I knew there was only maybe 5 minutes of runtime left, so it kind of dawned on me that I wasn't going to. Are there any that spring to mind?
Well, my parents had a lot of random movies on VHS that I would watch over and over. One of them was like a TV movie, The Death of the Incredible Hulk. Was it Bill Bixby played him in that TV series? I think that's his name. Right? It was kind of very camp, over the top, funny soundtrack. I would watch it over and over and became obsessed with The Incredible Hulk, because when you're at that age, you don't really have a critical filter. I didn't anyway. I just liked that this man turned green, and so that's my earliest memory of watching movies. And then, like a little bit older, 7 or 8, I remember watching Tom Hanks's That Thing You Do. You know, the movie he wrote and directed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it kind of made me fall in love with music. It made me want to be in a band, and I just loved that movie from a really early age, and that's one I rewatched all the time. And then Back to the Future, obviously, I think everyone cites that as one of their early movie love, because it's just a perfect movie.
It is.
It really is flawless, and it's so entertaining, and any age group can enjoy it. The older you get, you see more in it, and it's those kind of movies, those fun, instant movies, I really fell in love with at an early age. And then I went to college and started watching The Sopranos and sought out more kind of deep thinking movies and character-based stories. And since then, I've just I spend any free minute I have either reading about movies that are coming out or watching old movies that I haven't seen, or trying to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to get. I mean, I've got a list and it's getting longer and longer the more I do this, and I'll never get to the end of it.
Which is great. You don't want to ever get to the end. I hate when you can't think of something to watch. So it's nice to have a list to work through. Yeah.
So what about your second film then, Pat? Which one are you choosing for the second film?
What else is on that list? The Lighthouse. Have you seen The Lighthouse?
Yes, I have. Yes. I watched it. Actually, I watched it today for the first time. I know it was critically acclaimed.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I know it was critically acclaimed, and I just never got around to it. It doesn't. It's not the most appealing of films to look at, like from the surface. So that's possibly what put me off.
Yeah, when I looked at the list today, I was like, that's kind of out of place on this list. I don't know if it deserves to be there, but also it was the best movie I saw that year, and it was like one of the best cinema experiences I had, and I wasn't expecting much going into it, and I just thought the performances were amazing. It was such a original and creative idea for a movie. I think Robert Eggers is like a genius, and I can't wait to see what he does next. I hadn't seen The Witch when I watched Lighthouse, and I went and watched it afterwards. Loved The Witch.
Yeah,
still think Lighthouse is better though, and the language in it is so rich and like authentic feeling, and it's almost Shakespearean, like the story, the way it unfolds. I went to see it with my friend. Actually, it's funny with The Lighthouse because you could see it with 10 people and everyone could think something different. Because I went with my best friend the first time, and both of us looked at each other several times, like our jaws dropped, how much we were loving it, and like these scenes are amazing. And the scenes when they're getting drunk together, we were like, yeah, that's like us.
Yeah, great.
And then I watched it with my girlfriend yesterday because I hadn't seen it since that first time, and I was like, if I'm going to talk about this, I should watch it again. And she hated it. So, and it kind of influenced my view, and I was like, did I love it that much? But I know I did. But Lighthouse was one of those for me because it doesn't have a concrete end. There's no, this is exactly what's happening. It's very much left to your interpretation, and you can come away feeling different things about what happened, which I love. I don't need to be told exactly what was happening. And actually, because it wasn't that, me and my friend for the rest of the day and night talked about what we thought about the movie, which for me is way more interesting than a neatly tied bow at the end of, So I just thought it was really original, and one of the coolest things I've seen in recent times. It was even the way it looks is just a beautiful, like each frame is like a work of art, and Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson are just at the top of their games, and he's an exciting new filmmaker. So I thought I'll put that in and put something new in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. It's one of those films where if you go to see it at the theatre, you'll expect a few people to walk out.
Right.
It's not for everyone.
I will say, though, it's better in the theatre because the soundtrack is so menacing and disturbing, which my girlfriend keeps turning it down. On some TV sets, when people are talking, it's much quieter. And then when there's like action scenes or whatever, it gets much louder.
Yeah.
And she's someone who likes to turn it down during those parts and turn it back up when there's some dialogue, which really pisses me off because for me, the sound is there for a reason and I don't get bothered by loud noises. But in the cinema, I was just subjected to all of that, and it really, my senses were assaulted. And I loved it. So I think seeing it in the cinema was better than watching it at home. And it's that weird framing where it's like just a sliver in the middle of the screen, which kind of creates this claustrophobia, which I liked and thought was cool. But it's harder on a TV because you lose so much of the screen. And but it was great in the cinema.
Yeah, that aspect ratio really struck out for me as well. That kind of keeping you tight in to the frame. This, you've got to look at this, and also it's claustrophobic film anyway, so you just get that sense from that choice. He's great at making you feel like you're going insane with these people. Like when Willem Dafoe is like, "How long have we been there? Has it been 5 weeks? Has it been 2 days?" And you're like, "Oh my God, that's the scariest thought ever." I've had moments like that in my life where I'm like, I'm not sure how long I've been here, and it's really scary. So it was a great depiction of just two men on an island by themselves going insane, nowhere to go, and you really got that feeling yourself as a viewer. So I mean, it looks and sounds fantastic in those performances. Robert Pattinson, I mean, Willem Dafoe, was guaranteed, but Robert Pattinson's putting in a lot of really great performances recently. Oh my God. I don't know if he's ever done a bad performance. Like, obviously I don't like Twilight. I just don't. But that's not his fault. No. He just hasn't been bad. I can't wait to see what he does with Batman. Excited about that. Yeah, I watched some interviews with Willem Dafoe about the movie, and he loves the movie and all that, but he's from a very traditional theatre background. And Pattinson isn't. And it was interesting that the two of them have very different approaches to the scenes, because Willem Dafoe would want to rehearse it and get it perfect. And Pattinson was like, well, if we keep rehearsing it, we'll lose some of that like visceral reaction. Like it's only going to happen once, and then recreating it is kind of, you lose some of the authenticity or something like that. And it was interesting. And it sounded like it got pretty heated between the two of them, which I think just helped the movie because they're supposed to be so different. And you can see how much they're conflicting, and there's genuine rage in Pattinson's eyes at several times when he's like getting angry with Dafoe. And it's just cool to hear those back stories. And they were really on that island, and it was like horrible conditions. I think it was shot in Canada. I think it was shot in Nova Scotia. That makes sense. Those accents they are from like just off the coast of Canada, right? Like, because they sound so Irish. I was like, at first, I was like, these are really bad Irish accents, and then I realized, was thinking, it's those kind of, that's where the pirate thing comes from, isn't it? Just off that east coast of Canada, and so I think it's set in New England. And I had not a problem with the accents, but I was questioning where they were coming from, and I noticed that they did sound like Irish accents. But then I thought bad Irish accents. But then I thought, well, maybe, immigrants, it was set in late 1800s, so that would have still been happening. So maybe second, third generation of immigrants from Ireland over to America. Right. I think that is a genuine accent that existed. Like, I think, and especially Willem Dafoe, his character, seemed like he was kind of nailing it and never
never waved from this one accent he decided on. Whereas Pattinson kind of had that Irish thing at the start, and then it became Boston.
Yeah.
And then at times he just sounds very straight, like Middle America. And I don't know if that was on purpose, because he's trying to be this different person at the start. He says his name is Winslow, and it turns out Winslow's some guy who died and he took his identity, and maybe that's why his accent is slipping. Yeah. The first time I watched it, I was like, Pattinson is just not getting the accent as good as Willem Dafoe. But after watching it yesterday, I was like, it felt more purposeful that the accent changed. So,
and I would be surprised.
It's just more stuff to talk about, really.
Yeah,
which is what I love.
Exactly it. Yeah, and I would be surprised if. Considering the exacting nature of this film and The Witch as well, that I'd be surprised if they'd allow something as sloppy to be thrown into the film.
Exactly. That's another thing Willem Dafoe said about Eggers, is like, it was so precise. Everything you heard was written on the script. There was no improvisation. Really? Wow. Yeah, it was all, he really knew exactly how it was going to look and how it was going to play out and what they were going to say and where the cameras were going to be. He's very precise, which it didn't feel like to me. Whereas with Fincher, you can see it's a maths equation almost, where everything is on the screen. And famously, he'll make them do every scene 100 times, and they lose actors. A lot of actors don't like working with that because they lose their whatever it is, the authenticity of delivering the lines. Whereas I didn't feel that way watching this. It almost felt like these two were improvising, and it was very free flowing, I found.
Yeah, the language, and there's some monologues in there by both of them that are really impressive.
Oh my God, so good and so funny. Like I laughed so hard at several times, even though it's like a dark. I don't think it's a scary movie. It's just a disturbing kind of dark movie, but it has these hilarious moments. And that one monologue when Willem Dafoe is, I think Robert Pattinson said he doesn't like his cooking or something.
Yeah.
And there's like a 10-minute monologue where he's just completely damning him and saying what he'd like to do to him. And it's so Shakespearean and awful. And then he says, okay, I like your cooking. And I just thought it was so epic. But the monologues I loved.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, he's desperate for him to tell him that he likes his lobster, isn't he? That's what he wants.
And the movie's not above the occasional fart joke, even though it's like an A24 very critically acclaimed art house movie. There's moments where he just farts and it's funny. Like,
it is funny. So do you have you picked out a favorite scene for this one?
Oh, that's tough. God, I suppose that monologue, that Willem Dafoe monologue, where if I had more time to think, it might be different if I could watch it again. But that scene where he goes on a tirade abusing Willem Pattinson, it's just, I love the writing and I love how he delivers it. And there's also a scene where it's another monologue scene, and it's when Pattinson starts questioning. He's getting super paranoid and he's questioning everything Willem Dafoe has told him, and Willem Dafoe just comes back at him with this another long damning monologue, and his eyes don't blink, and it's like a 2-minute scene, and I'm like, after about 20 seconds I realized he hadn't blinked, so at that stage I'm just staring at his eyes waiting for them to blink, and they don't, and it's just, his performance is so amazing. So maybe that is sticking out in my memory, but really there isn't one scene I can pick that I just like it all.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything on there is hypnotic, and it just holds you.
It is
immediately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chosen for what? For what? Look at ye, handsome lad with eyes bright as a lady. Come to this rock, playing the tough. You make me laugh with your false grum. Ye pretended there's some mystery in your quietudes, but there ain't no mystery. You're an open book. A picture, says I. A painted actress screaming in the footlights. A bitch what wants to be coveted for nothing but being born, crying about the silver spoon what should have been yours. Now look at you, crying. Boo, boo. What you gonna do? Will you kill me? Will you? Will you kill me like you done that girl? I did! Liar!
So you mentioned about watching That Thing We Do. That Thing We Do, is that what it's called?
That Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do, the Tom Hanks film, and that got you into music. So what kind of music influenced your style?
Well, I'm from Ireland, so like I have a big Irish influence. I
Yeah.
love Irish traditional music. I love all the old folk singers like Luke Kelly. I love Paul Brady, and there's contemporary writers in Ireland now like Mick Flannery and Declan O'Rourke, and they always continue to inspire me, and that's what I listened to growing up. Glenn Hansard and the Frames, and then when I got older, I really loved Americana music and you know, classic American songwriters like Bob Dylan and Paul Simon and Springsteen and Neil Young and Tom Petty and Van Morrison and all those guys.
Incredible.
That's when I started, you know, singing and wanting to be a songwriter, and that was maybe in my mid-teens. Actually, before that, I was a drummer, and I played exclusively in like metal bands and punk bands. And
Really?
I think like most people, I'm 32, and a lot of people my age, when you're 12 or 13, you discover metal, and your early teens at least are spent wearing all black and going to live
Ballads.
music club. Yeah. And I love System of a Down and Nirvana and Metallica, and you know, I still love a lot of that music. It's not really what I listen to, but when I started singing is when I started listening more to songwriters, and my world opened up a bit more. And then since moving to Texas, there's great Texas music I love. There's writers like Guy Clark and Townes Van Zandt, and just great storytellers and people who are great with words and building characters. And I suppose that spawns from my love of movies. I love character-driven movies. And when a songwriter is able to build a character or a scene in that way, that's what I really love. So
I think you can, from what you've said there, you can definitely hear that in your music. It is, and it's not something that I've heard at all. It maybe once or twice, but it seems to be a mixture of that Americana influenced by your location and also your roots from Ireland as well. Seems as though there's a perfect blend of that. I've noticed that instantly.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's kind of, I'd love if that's how people thought about my music, because that's how I feel, and because I grew up playing traditional music, and my accent comes through, I think, when I sing, and I sound Irish, and there's definitely an Irish element, but really the songs are Americana folk kind of songs. So I would love if that's what it was, if it was a marriage of the two.
Yeah, well, it certainly comes across like that for me. Great stuff as well. Great stuff. Your new album's excellent. Loved it.
Thanks a lot, Luke. Cheers.
Okay, so let's move on to your angry dog in the background.
Yeah, Samantha's she's gearing them up to go for a walk. It's been a long process, but I think we're finally getting them out the door.
Okay, so what about film number 3? Which one are you going for film number 3?
Could you help me with the list? What else is on the list?
Raging Bull.
Raging Bull, yeah. I watched that last night as well, again. And talking about character-driven things, like that's really the one. I mean, it's... First of all, Robert De Niro, his performance is like probably his best. I don't know if it's hard to say that about Robert De Niro because he's done
got
so many. It's a real... I forgot how hard a movie it is to watch. Like, I still haven't... We watched it again last night, and I think it might only be my second time ever watching it, because it's not exactly a rewatchable. It's not like Goodfellas. It's not like some of Scorsese's other stuff. It's just this great character study where this man completely destroys himself, and it's so sad, and there's nothing redeemable about him. You don't like him. And it just left me with this awful feeling all night. And even this morning I woke up, I was like, God, I shouldn't have watched Raging Bull right before going to bed. But it's just undeniably amazing. And it's like, you know, it's so much toxic masculinity and misogyny. It's really not a boxing movie. It's just about this man who destroys himself because he can't handle his feelings. And there's a great scene that sums up a lot of it for me, where he's convinced Joe Pesci, who's also amazing in it, has had sex with his wife. Yeah. And he walks down the street to beat him up and gets into the house. And he's just arriving, and you see Joe Pesci like giving his son a really stern talking because he's not eating his dinner. It's like, eat that fucking dinner, I'll jab this fork in your eye or something. I'm like, Well, explains it all, like, because they're brothers and they obviously were treated that way, and now he's treating his kids that way, and it's a cycle of masculinity and it's gonna keep going. And then he beats the shit out of them, and they don't talk, and it's just such a stupid. It's just really animalistic, stupid, masculine behavior, but it's perfectly depicted on the screen, and even that last scene where he still can't own up to it that it was like he quotes on the waterfront scene where he's like, it wasn't your fault, it was Charlie, you know. He's blaming it on Joe Pesci's character, like that's the reason he's in this mess, and it's just. I don't know how Jake LaMotta felt about watching the movie. Like, I don't know how anyone could be happy.
Yeah,
it's based on his book. He helped he trained De Niro.
Yeah,
and he was very involved in it. And it seems like he was happy with the movie, but I mean, it's so damning.
Yeah,
there's nothing.
You're not coming out of that with any redeemable qualities.
No, and I don't know if that would happen today. Like, you know, like the Queen movie that came out. I know they wanted to. I know Sacha Baron Cohen really wanted to make that movie, at warts and all, and show like the gritty side, and I understand an artist not wanting that kind of movie to be made about them, but they went with the more like, let's just make a glorified movie, which I didn't like that much, I'll be honest.
No, that's why I wanted to see the outrage and the excess, and I wanted to see the warts and all kind of grime of it, which has been widely reported. So making a film which. I'm a big Queen fan, and I have been since I was a kid.
Me too.
So, not telling the story, changing the timeline, changing the way things happened. I don't know. It felt a bit of a cop out.
Yeah, I thought so too. But also, if I was Brian May and someone's making a movie about me and my friend, who, you know, I would probably want some kind of censorship on it as well. Yeah. But as a fan and as an art lover, it wasn't the right thing. And I think Sacha Baron Cohen would have done an amazing job. And he just is. He would have been such a great Freddie Mercury. I know. What's his name? Got the Oscar?
Rami Malek.
Rami Malek, yeah, I don't know. I thought he was good he was definitely good as him.
He was, and he came across the physicality of it. And that Live Aid performance. I mean, it's Freddie.
That was great, and it was really well made and all. But just the movie as a whole, it didn't do that for me. Whereas Raging Bull is like, they are not glamming that up in any way.
No,
it's like
no hiding.
They don't even really talk about his boxing training at all, which is so cool. The boxing scenes kind of serve as just a way for him to let out the rage that's building up in his personal life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're like just these boiling point moments in the movie. So yeah, I much prefer that kind of movie. Than the Bohemian Rhapsodies of the world.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. It's a film that I've maybe only seen twice before, rewatching it, because it isn't an easy watch.
No.
There are a lot of tough situations, tough language. Vicky is 15, and that's hard to bear.
Yeah.
And also, Jake is, I mean, he's a despicable character, but I think it's a measure of De Niro's performance that I do still feel sorry for him right at the end when he's left, he's crumbled, he's got nothing. He's 60 pounds overweight.
Another thing to talk about, well, you pity him. Like, it's so sad at the end. It's the most tragic thing when you see him doing his stand-up routine, which is like this very middle-of-the-road humor that's kind of delivered with no class. Yeah. And he's drinking and he's overweight, and then you see there's like 4 people at the bar and 2 of them are heckling him, and it's like, wow, what a fall from a completely self-inflicted fall from great. Like, there's no one else to blame in the whole movie.
Thanks for laughing. Spread it around a little bit. Now, the first night I was here, I said to the owner of the joint, I said, listen, where's the toilet? He said, you're in it.
Come on, let's go.
Hey, why don't you leave me alone? I'm trying to do my routine.
Up yours.
Pal, you're gonna force me to make a comeback.
Ronnie.
Fuck you. And the horse you rode in on. And the whole cavalry behind you.
Funny man.
That's why I'm here. Give me another drink. Piss in it for me.
It's just so sad. And then De Niro, the fact that it could be the first time an actor has been so committed to a role to gain the weight. I know Paul Schrader, the writer, that was like the one big argument about the movie where he was like, no, you can't gain the weight. Well, it's too unhealthy. We'll make prosthetics. Yeah. And De Niro insisted, no, give me 3 months. I'm going to gain the weight and it's going to work. And it totally does. Because you see, when you realize it's actually real, because there's so many scenes with his shirt wide open and the belly's hanging out and you're like, that's not prosthetics. You can hear it in the way he talks. His breathing is not as good. It's affecting his whole life. And without De Niro doing that, it just wouldn't have been as believable. It's like what Christian Bale does for every movie now, but De Niro was the first to do it.
Yeah, I think he held that record he held it until I think Vincent D'Onofrio put on loads of weight to be Private Pyle in Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, because he was a thin guy, and then you put your...
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I just assumed that was a big guy.
Yeah, I did. Like, throughout the 80s, he did that even more. What amazes me, he slims down, and then he's still got a little bit of puppy fat for King of Comedy in, I think that's 82. And then he puts on weight for Al Capone in 87, and then in Midnight Run, he's this skinny guy a year later. It's remarkable.
Right. And Taxi Driver, he's this scrawny kind of...
Yeah, in amazing shape.
Yeah. King of Comedy was one I almost put on the list as well.
It's great.
That and Raging Bull I love so much because they're not the typical Scorsese movies. Like there's no massive set pieces or they're not typical gangster movie. You know, I know Scorsese kind of does everything, but I just love how kind of understated those two are and how interesting the characters are. And did you like the Joker? Joker?
I did very much.
Film? I absolutely loved it, and I don't understand why it's such a mixed. Like the reviews seem so. I know it's probably the political, like the thing of glorifying violence or whatever, but whatever. I mean, that's.
Yeah, I think Phoenix's performance is incredible. I love the tone, the script's amazing. I love the character and the build-up of that character. I mean, it's not the most sunny of films to watch, but I was blown away by it.
Me too, and for me, it's a rewatchable one. It's also fun. I think it's fun to watch. Like it's terrible what's happening, but I mean, it's so well executed, and the performances are great. And that moment when he kills De Niro's character it's shocking, and it's like the tension there is unbelievable. But like that's totally from Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, and De Niro's performances, and I love King of Comedy. I remember renting it on DVD because I hadn't heard of it. It wasn't like a well-known Scorsese hit or anything. And I got it on DVD way back in the day just because I thought it looked like a fun comedy and Robert De Niro's in it, and it wasn't what I was expecting. But that could have been on this list too. I really love that movie.
It's huge. I think Scorsese's film after that was After Hours, and that's probably even more low-key than
I didn't see After Hours.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Wow.
It's great. Well worth checking out.
There's actually a lot of Scorsese movies I haven't seen, I realise. I've seen a lot too, but there's so much.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Okay, so talked about your music, and obviously everything's going great, it's working out, but did you have anything in mind or anything back up as a secondary career if it didn't work out?
Not really. I kind of think not having a backup is what made me stay doing it. You know, I starved for it for a long time, and you know, it's not like I'm making lots of money now, but I'm able to pay rent and survive and play shows all the time, and people are listening. So was always my goal. But you know, at an early age, you don't believe it's possible because I'm from a tiny village, and there was no one really to look to that was making a living off art or creative endeavors. So it always felt like playtime. But when I was like 15 or 16, I started playing in local pubs and making a living that way, like making more money than my friends, because if you're getting £100 to play in a pub, that's more than your friend is getting for working at the local shop, you know. So at the time I was like, maybe I can make a living. And my parents, you know, were very supportive of it. They love that I play music, and they've never tried to steer me in any other direction. So I was lucky in that sense that I didn't have this pressure to find a career. But I went to university. I thought I was going to maybe become a teacher
Right.
But it really was just because society tells you need to figure something out. And then things started happening for me and I was able to make a living playing music. So I dropped out of college and have never looked back. I never really had a 9 to 5. So
fantastic. Well, I mean, that's the amazing success story. Follow your dreams, and it worked out for you as well. And the last thing you want to do is stifle that by saying, "Well, if it doesn't work, I'll give it 6 months and then."
That's how I feel. Yeah, because honestly, if I had done that, I would have just went with the safety net because I wasn't that good at all, and I still feel like I'm getting better, but you know, I've been doing it for 15 years professionally now, and so. Of course, I'm getting a bit better. But if after 5 years I also had this job where I could make $500 a week or something, not even that much, I would have just done it for the comfort of having some money, and I wouldn't have got better. I just got better because I had to and because it's all I did. So, yeah, for me, not having that safety net is the reason I'm still doing it. And I think
fantastic.
If you really believe that's what you want to do and that you can do it, I think having a safety net's just going to stifle you. So
yeah. Okay, so what about film number 4, Pat? Which one are we going for?
That one is Back to the Future's in there, isn't it?
Let's do it, yeah. Why have you chosen this one?
Well, because it was getting very heavy, the list. And I was like, I better put something in there that's not so dark and unwatchable. And I don't know if there is a more watchable movie than Back to the Future. And honestly, aside from it not being dark, it's perfect. Like, it's probably the best movie of the list because it's just, there's no wasted time. The amount of enjoyable concepts that every kid and every person would love to explore, like going back in time and seeing your parents in school. Like, it's just, you actually, as if Back to the Future didn't exist, it's something you discuss with your friend. Like, it's just great to see it executed so well on screen, like something you wish you could do. The DeLorean looks cool. All the characters are iconic. Like is it Doc Brown? His name is
Doc Brown, yeah.
Who I actually saw drinking a coffee a few months ago.
Really?
I was staying at my girlfriend's brother has an apartment in Soho, really nice place, and it's above this coffee shop that Christopher Lloyd drinks coffee in like every 3 or 4 days. Like, he's there all the time and you're just gonna see him when you walk out on the street. So I saw him there, which was cool. Beside the point though. So yeah, just all the characters are great. Marty McFly, the coolest. You just want to be him when you're a kid. There's just, everything is in there. It's hilarious. It's really scary, really tense, and just time travel. I mean, it's fantastic. And I love Robert Zemeckis as well. Like, everything, most of what he's done, I love. I love Castaway. I loved Flight. I'm a big Zemeckis fan. But Back to the Future is a masterpiece.
Oh, it's fun. I mean, some of the concepts, some of the ideas are just, I'm constantly surprised. Yeah. It's just a wonderful film. The soundtrack's amazing. That Power of Love right at the start.
Yeah. So great. But like, even the little moments where, I can't remember the exact music, but there are movies, and is it John Williams? It's not John Williams, is it?
It's Alan Silvestri.
Alan Silvestri, okay. But it has that John Williams thing where they're just very memorable moments throughout, and the soundtrack does half the work even. It's perfect. It really is. And so digestible and easy to rewatch.
Oh, and just the rewatchability of it is just fantastic.
Yeah.
That scene right at the end, the Johnny B. Good scene, always gets me. Just absolutely love it.
And I think, is that him playing it? I think he is a guitar player, isn't he?
I think it's not his voice, even though it sounds like him. But he did learn. He learned the chords.
Yeah, he's a convincing guitar player. You know, he just looks like a cool front man. It's just so funny as well. Yeah, all that scene where the band leader's like on the phone to... Is he on the phone to...
Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I found that sound you're looking for. Yeah. But doesn't he try and play... He tries to play Van Halen first or something.
Yeah, he's tapping like Van Halen.
Right. Oh, no, he ends with Van Halen, and that's where he loses them. Yeah.
He does a bit of Pete Townsend, some windmills.
Right. Yeah. It's just fun, you know. It's kind of it'll always be up there as one of my favorite movies ever. And from like it's one of those few that you see when you're 10 and you absolutely love it, and then you rewatch when you're 30 and you still love it like equally.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of times you'll go back and watch the stuff you loved at that age and it doesn't really stand up. Whereas this just will always, like, if I can't wait to have kids to show them this movie.
Yeah.
They're gonna love it more than anything that's out at the time. Like it's timeless.
It's fantastic.
No pun intended.
The characters, I mean, are just incredible. I know, obviously Marty and Doc, but Biff as a bad guy is just Tom Wilson. He's incredible, and Crispin Glover as George McFly is just
amazing,
out of control.
It's sad what happened to him. Do you know the controversy with the second movie and?
Yeah, didn't he? He didn't. There was something contractual. He didn't get paid what he wanted to. Something like that.
It was something like that, and so he pulled out of filming, and then they got a different actor and put like prosthetics on him to make it look like it was him, which kind of is bad form.
Yeah.
And then so he sued them, and actually I think changed the law where you can't do anything like that anymore, like use an actor's likeness and. But yeah, so he has a real bitter taste about the whole franchise, I think, and that's sad. But he was amazing in it, like such a perfect nerd.
Incredible. Something about the sequel. I always, like you said, you always it's something that you always think about. It's something like a kid. You look in wonder at. It's something about the sequel that almanac, the Gray's Sports Almanac.
Yeah,
I think about that every week. If I'm watching sport, and I think I wish I had a Gray's Sports Almanac.
Me too. Yeah, and when you're young, there's something about all the props and everything that's mentioned. That Sports Almanac just feels so Hollywood in my memory and like beautiful. And as a kid, you lust after it. You just because it's such a obviously that's what you'd want if you could travel time. Like that's how you make your money and just very clever things. I actually can't talk much about the sequels because I know I watched them when I was a kid. I haven't rewatched them as much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know did they suffer? Like did they go down in quality or was it? Still,
yeah, I mean,
like
it was. I think they still got well received. I mean, it's going to be tricky to follow Back to the Future because it's so perfect. But I think the third one got better received than the second, and that's the one that's in the Wild West.
Yeah, the second one actually, of all the movies, has a lot of the imagery that stuck with me the most. The way they depicted the future and the hoverboards and just the clothes he wore. Which I think probably influenced a lot of fashion. Forward. That stuck with me a lot. The third one I actually saw more recently, and I remember thinking, yeah, this is really good. I mean, none of them are the first one, but they all have things in them that are amazing. And as a trilogy, it's just obviously a classic thing.
Yeah, the writing's great.
Yeah, really is. Did Robert Zemeckis write it and direct it? Like, is it all him, or did it come from...
He co-wrote it with Bob Gale. I think he was his writing partner on some of his earlier films like I Want to Hold Your Hand and Used Cars.
Right. I haven't seen those.
Used Cars has got Kurt Russell in. It's an early performance from Kurt Russell. It's not bad. It's not bad. Right. Worth checking out. Okay. And I Want to Hold Your Hand's about Beatlemania.
It's actually about the Beatles. Like
they don't feature it. It's about like the fans of Beatlemania.
Is it like a documentary?
No. It's like a comedy.
Oh wow! Okay, I'm gonna check that out. I just watched Get Back. You know the Apple.
Oh right, yeah.
Or the Disney Plus thing. It's maybe the best thing I've ever seen.
Wow!
Oh my god, it was unbelievable.
It's 9 hours, something like that, 8 hours.
Yeah, and I wish it was longer. Like when it was over, I was like, because it's like hanging out with the Beatles every day. I watched it, like I would watch an hour and then go about my day and then come back and watch another hour. I didn't even episodically kind of split it up. I just, whenever I had time, I put it on. But it's something you could rewatch for sure, or you could just put on in the background and while you're doing the dishes and just have it there. Because it's not like there's this real storyline. There is a storyline, but in general, it's random scenes of them hanging out writing songs like with such ease, and it's so natural to them to write absolute hits. And they love each other so much, which is great to watch. We shouldn't be talking about the Beatles thing, but I recommend getting stuck into that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a watch over Christmas for me.
Yeah, it's very inspiring.
So what about Back to the Future favourite scene? Have you got one?
Again, that's a tough one to single out a scene. What's coming to my mind? I like the scene where his mother fancies him and she's trying to get with him in the car.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And then Biff gets in the car and he comes out and beats up Biff. And that's just a very satisfying moment where he like punches Biff and knocks him
Where
out.
George clocks Biff. Yeah, amazing.
George clocks him, yeah.
Are you okay?
Pat, you said that you're in Austin, and that's where you lay your head now. That's where you call home.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Because you're from Southern Ireland originally.
Yeah, I'm a musician. It's all I've ever done, and traditionally January is like a quiet month, and so I would always take January to myself to travel, go somewhere new. And in 2017, I decided I'd never really explored America. I'd visited New York a few times, but I was like, I'm just going to go and travel and see different parts of America. And I came to Austin because I had a friend who lived in Houston, who is actually my manager now.
Right.
And he was like, come on down to Austin. I think you'll love it. I didn't know about Austin. I didn't realize the reputation. It's the live music capital of the world. It's home to all this great music. Like, it's one of the most cultural, like, musical towns I've ever seen, and probably that there is. And so I arrived, and the airport had this great music playing. Like, there was a live band in the airport, and I was like, wow, this is a good start. I got in a taxi, and I was like, bring me to your favorite bar. And he brought me to this place called Mean Eyed Cat, which is like a Johnny Cash themed bar, which was a cool bar, but there was no one in it except this one old man who looked like Santa. He had this great beard and a cowboy hat, and he was really friendly. His name is Winker. And turns out he's this legend who goes around to all the gigs taking photos, and everyone knows him. And he was like, come with me to this bar around the corner. It's called Don's Depot. And there was this musician called Chris Gage playing, who's like a famous piano player who played with Jerry Jeff Walker and all these famous Texas guys. And he was just one of the best musicians I'd ever seen. He was just playing in this bar, and I got talking to the barmaid, and he eventually asked me up to sing. And then I was like, this is the best place I've ever been. And from that moment, I knew. Obviously, I spent another 2 weeks in the town and saw all this great music and met these great people. But when I came back to Ireland, I couldn't shake the feeling of being in a town, being able to play original music to this community that adore it and eat it up. And they just want to hear original stuff, which in Ireland, I was doing a lot of cover gigs at the time. I was playing weddings and playing in pubs and really soulless stuff that it was paying the bills, but it wasn't feeding my soul in any way.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I go to Austin, I could probably start writing songs and actually be proud of what I'm doing. So I made the plans to tie up any loose ends at home, sold my car, stopped taking bookings, and the following year got a visa and moved over and never looked back. Thankfully, it worked out really well. I hit the ground running and met some great people, and it's been amazing. It feels like home as well. Obviously, I miss Ireland. I love Ireland, but I've found a home for myself here, and I see myself growing old in Austin.
Wow, really incredible. Big change of lifestyle. And do you feel as though like the landscape or the history of the city or the surroundings have an impact on your songwriting?
Hugely. The stuff I listen to has changed a lot since moving here. Right? Like the people I mentioned earlier, like Guy Clark and Townes Van Zandt, and there's James McMurtry. And aside from that, the people who are just playing now regularly in bars around town, who I get to see all the time, are incredible and totally changed the way I write songs, and I get to play with them. So I play with these great musicians all the time, and they've made me become better at music, at the the technical side of playing guitar. I'm just better at doing it now because of being around these people and seeing it. And I'm totally entrenched in it all the time. I live around music 24/7, and my friends are musicians. And really, it wasn't like that for me at home. I would go and do my wedding and get paid, but really, you're playing Brown Eyed Girl 4 nights a week, and you're not learning anything. You're not growing, and you're not. I wasn't writing. I didn't write really until I moved here, so it had a huge effect on my music. And
wow, quite a journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was 28 when I moved here, and I hadn't finished a song at that stage. So I was very late to the game, but it was good to be surrounded by pros and really talented people, and that's kind of. I feel like I'm getting better all the time, you know.
Cool. Okay, so what about film number 5? What's your final pick, Pat?
You tell me, Luke. I can't remember what I said.
Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, of course. Well, yeah. I mean, I think most people who've seen it would put it up there. I mean, it's just it's another perfect one. Jack Nicholson just being amazing. The story's so great. Classic characters. It's another one I haven't seen in a long time, but the first time I watched it, it was another one of those moments where maybe that's the best movie I've ever seen. It's just you can't really improve on it, and you love the characters, and it's a fun film to watch. It's not it's not a difficult watch. It's just beautiful, and there's great messages in there, and
it's got a great mixture, a great balance of the dramatic and the comedic as well.
It really does. Christopher Lloyd in there again.
Yeah.
And a young Danny DeVito being super lovable, and you just love Jack Nicholson's character so much. You love his kind of rebellious, and how sad it is that that's kind of they're trying to take that from him and make him conform. And Milos Forman, I think, didn't he says he wrote it, or sorry, who wrote it?
It's Lawrence Hauben and Bo Goldman who wrote it, but it's adapted from the novel. Who wrote the novel? Ken Kesey, I think. Something Kesey. Like that.
And he used to host these like acid taking parties and stuff in his house, and I think it was the movie came directly out of an acid trip. He said he took acid.
No way.
The whole movie came to him and he wrote it down, and that's where it came from. Which I kind of, a lot of times when I watch movies, like especially Lighthouse, I'm like, this came from an acid trip. It just seems like these ideas are ideas that come to you when you're tripping really hard and don't know, and you're trying to make sense of things. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting that he wrote it while he was tripping.
Wow, did not know that. It was Kirk Douglas he was in the stage play for it, and he wanted to bring it to the big screen, but nobody would take it. And then he gave the rights, or he sold the rights, and then Michael Douglas bought the rights, and he was a producer. He was like an Oscar-winning producer before he was even Michael Douglas,
right?
Which I always find fascinating.
I remember reading that, yeah. So it had been a play for a long time.
Mm-hmm. I think it was published in the 50s.
Okay,
I think
it's one of those movies that kind of you can go back, like Back to the Future for me. Obviously, not as popcorn and fun as Back to the Future, but you can always go back, and it's an uplifting, life-affirming movie while also being very tragic and
great characters.
Like, that's kind of maybe a theme with a lot of the movies I've chosen. I love the characters and the performances as much as anything, and that's kind of what I seek out in movies. And Jack Nicholson's at the top of his game in this one, so
yeah. And such a triumphant moment when Chief leaves. He finally breaks free at the end.
That's the scene, isn't it? Yeah, that's amazing. And Nurse Ratched is such a great villain.
Yeah.
Like, just so stern and doesn't really understate it, but like, she's representing everything that is holding him down, you know?
Yeah. But she's not, I mean, she's, in a certain respect, she's not like a super villain, or she's not doing anything terrible.
No.
I mean, it's Jack Nicholson's character that's the prick, basically.
Right,
He's the one, he knows the rules.
Right, but you're kind of on his side as well,
yeah,
because the rules are there to be broken, and you know he's making life better for all these other patients. And I wish I haven't watched that in maybe like 7 or 8 years, and I wish movies stuck with me as much as, you know, as I wanted them to. Like, I can't. It's hard for me to pick apart scenes from a movie I haven't seen that long. I don't know if you're like that. Like, if you've watched, it's very easy for me to talk about a movie I saw last week or yesterday, but go back further than that, it's just harder for me to remember details.
Yeah. I don't know if it comes with age. I find that sometimes in my memory's shockingly bad, terrible. Like everyday things I'm terrible at. But with films, like character names, years, the release years, what they won at the Oscars, I know all of that. Really? I don't know, it just sticks. I don't know why.
I suppose it's like that with some things for me, like Back to the Future. Although I've seen Back to the Future probably 20 times. So there's something to that. Whereas I've probably seen Cuckoo's Nest 2 or 3 times and all a long time ago. But yeah, my memory could be better.
So are you able to remember your favourite scene from Cuckoo's Nest?
Well, I'll say Chief, throwing the sink out the window. And that's so, I mean, it just is great. And I love the soundtrack for that movie too. It just has this light-hearted feel, even during the most awful moments. Like it makes it all seem like a nice story that you could read to a kid. The soundtrack puts it in that place.
Yeah, it is a little late. That's Jack Nietzsche. He worked on Harvest with Neil Young. I think he worked with the Stones as well.
Way. Oh my God! Wow.
And I think he was only, when he worked on Harvest, I think he was only a 19 or 20-year-old kid who just showed up. And he was like multi-instrumentalist, he was multi-talented, and Neil Young got him in.
Cool. I like when movies use, contemporary artists. Like, did you see Suspiria, that recent
I haven't.
remake?
I love the original, but I haven't got round to seeing the remake.
And Radiohead, what's Radiohead singer's name?
Tom York.
Tom York. Wow, there's my memory. He did the soundtrack, and I just absolutely love it. And then Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead doing the There Will Be Blood soundtrack and working with Paul Thomas Anderson, always amazing. And then anytime Randy Newman does a soundtrack, I love it.
Yeah.
I just love when people trust a singer-songwriter with a soundtrack, and like a contemporary musician who you can hear also doing like pop songs.
Yeah. The Trent Reznor stuff with that he does for Fincher, amazing.
So
not necessarily my type of music, but the stuff he does for Fincher's films is incredible.
Yeah, when you're talking about soundtracks, it kind of your style of music goes out the window. It's just, does it suit the movie, and is it really good? And what else has he done? Like, I know he did The Social Network. What other movies did he do with Fincher?
He did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh, right, yeah.
And he did Gone Girl as well, I believe.
Oh, he did? Okay.
I think so.
Very cool.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I've got, just to wrap us up, I've got just a few quick fire questions, Pat. Just answer the first answer that comes to your mind. Okay, so you're doing a soundtrack for a movie. Who's the director and who's the star? Living or dead?
Oh, that's tough. Sorry, it's not more quick fire. Well, I think Scorsese and De Niro is just the marriage. I like Paul Thomas Anderson working with Daniel Day-Lewis as well. Like I think that's kind of undeniable.
Fantastic.
There's 2 quick fires. Sorry,
that's all right. Have you got a favorite movie soundtrack?
So many. Like it's kind of an obvious answer. That I love the Inception soundtrack a lot.
Oh, it's huge.
I'll just say that then. Inception.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, in a film about your life, what songs would be on the soundtrack?
That's The Way the World Goes Round by John Prine. What else? Oh, man. Some Randy Newman song, because I just love Randy Newman's writing.
Yeah.
You Can Leave Your Hat On. Randy Newman's version. Yeah, there's 2. There would be
cool. And who plays you in that film?
Oh, man. I've never thought about that. John Goodman
I can't see the resemblance.
My friends always, as a joke, say that to me, that John Goodman would play me. So I'm just gonna.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm just gonna
John
answer
Goodman
with
it is.
Or Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. He would.
All right. Okay.
He would start an acting career to play me just because he's
Okay.
ginger.
Okay, so out of the 5 films that you've talked about, if you could only save one, which would it be?
Oh man, I haven't seen it in the longest, but like probably One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is just such a classic. Although Back to the Future, no, a world without Back to the Future is not a world I want to be in. So I'll save that.
Fantastic. Okay, and finally, if you could choose one of your songs to play as the credits roll on Back to the Future, which would it be?
I would ruin the movie. I don't think any of my songs would help enhance that movie at all. God, none of them would fit. Maybe I have a song called Capsize, and that's probably the most uplifting, fun song, and it needs one of those. It can't.
Yeah, it does. And that is the song that I had in mind as well. Great song. Fantastic.
Thanks a lot, man.
Great. Okay, so you've got a new single out, Pat. That's Only a Man. That came out mid-December. Fantastic track. Have you got any things lined up for 2022? Gigs? Any new music? Any writing?
Yeah, lots of stuff. I've been writing a lot, so lots of music coming out. I'll probably just be releasing singles from now on. Making an album takes a lot of time and a lot of money, and I just don't have that time or money at the minute. So I'm going to be releasing singles hopefully every couple of months, and then going to get back to Ireland in February it remains to be seen if there'll be any live music happening in Ireland, but if there is, I'll be playing in February, and then I'll be back in August for shows in Ireland. And I'm doing South by Southwest this year, and the 38 Singer-Songwriters Festival in Florida, and a few cool festivals around America. So yeah, just trying to keep busy and keep the momentum going is all.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. Look forward to that. Well, Pat, it's been great talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on the show, going through your favourite films. Really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been great.
Thank you, Luke. Anytime I have an excuse to watch movies and make it look like work, it would be wonderful. So feel free to reach out again. I will do. 5.
Fantastic. Well, until then, thanks very much, Pat.
Thanks,
much appreciated. Take care. Thank you to Pat for stopping by. You can check out his latest record, Into the Light, which is available to stream everywhere, as is his latest single, Only a Man. Both great. As for All the Right Movies, our latest podcast on classic and hit films is on The Matrix. That came out last week. I'll be back with Matt and Westy on our next classic podcast, available next Friday, when we're talking about Shaun of the Dead. If you like the podcast, you can sign up to be an All the Right Movies Patreon supporter. You get access to all of the podcasts that we've created exclusively for Patreon and our classic podcast archive, which includes 2 of the films that I've talked about here with Pat, Cuckoo's Nest and Back to the Future. In total, there are over 80 podcasts that aren't available anywhere else. There are other benefits available as well, so go to patreon.com/all the right movies to support us and get access to hours and hours of great content. And if you do like the podcast, it'd be great if you could give us a positive rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. In the meantime, check out our social media for great daily movie content. On Twitter, we are at ATRightMovies, Instagram at @all_the_right_movies. Join our Facebook group, follow us on TikTok, we're at All the Right Movies there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our videos, and our website is alltherightmovies.com. I'll be back on ATRM Meets in 2 weeks when I'm talking to solo artist and member of the Raconteurs, Brendan Benson, who picks out some great films for us to talk about. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Pat. I'll see you soon.